Good day, everyone. We are the Group 4 and I'm Shane Bobadilla. Today, we will be discussing about the Chapter 9, which is the General Principles and Income Taxation. Now, let's start with the introduction. So let me ask you, para sa inyo, ano ba ang tax or tinatawag nating buwis? So, ang buwis or tax ay ang kontribusyon na kinokolekta ng pamahalaan mula sa mga mamamayan at negosyo. Ginagamit ito para pondohan ng mga pampublikong serbisyo tulad ng edukasyon, kalsada, ospital, ayuda at iba pa. Now, ano naman ang Train Law? Ang Train Law or Republic Act No. 10963 o ang Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion ay ipinatupad noong Enero 1, 2018. Ito ang unang bahagi ng Comprehensive Tax Reform Program or CTRP ng pamahalaan. Ano naman yung CTRP? Ito ay isang malawakang hakbang ng pamahalaan ng Pilipinas upang reformahin at gawing mas makatarungan, mas simple at mas epektibo ang sistema ng pagbubuwis sa bansa. Ano naman yung layunin ng Train Law? Siyempre una, modernisahin ang sistema ng pagbubuwis sa Pilipinas. Pag-aani ng buwis para sa mga ordinaryong Pilipino, gawing patas at makatawang tax system kung saan mas malaki ang ambag ng mas may kaya at mas magaang sa mga middle at low income earners. Siyempre, palakasin din ang kita ng gobyerno para pondohan ang mga proyekto gaya ng edukasyon, healthcare, infrastruktura at social services. Ano nga ba yung naging problema sa lumang sistema bago ang Train Law? Una dito is hindi tumutugma sa kasalukuyang cost of living. Ang mga low-income earners ay nabubuwisan agad kahit na maliit lamang ang kanilang kinikita. Komplikado at mahaba din ang computation ng buwis. Hindi pantay din ang buwis dahil may mga mayayaman na nagbabayad ng mas mababa kesa sa dapat. Bago ang Train Law, ang income tax table ay may 7 brackets. Ito ay ang kumikita ng mababa ay may tax agad ng 5% habang ang pinakamataas ay 32%. Pagkatapos ng Train Law, ang mga kumikita ng 250,000 and below is equal na siya sa 0% income tax. Mas mababang tax rate para sa middle income, mas mataas na buwis sa mayayaman. Meron ako ditong halimbawa. Bago ang Train Law, si Maria ay may sweldo na 20,000 kada buwan o 240,000 per year dahil times 12. Bago ang Train Law, may buwis agad siya na humigit kumulang na 1,800 kada buwan based to sa old income tax table. Sa isang taon, 1,800 times 12, bale 21,600 ang income tax niya. Pagkatapos ng Train Law, si Maria ay kumikita pa rin ng 240,000 kada taon. Dahil 250,000 ang exemption or yung maximum, wala na siyang babayarang income tax. So, ang laking ginhawa para sa kanya dahil mas malaking take-home pay, mas maraming pera para sa pagkain, pamasahe at gastusin niya sa bahay. Ano naman yung sole proprietor? Ang sole proprietor ay isang tao na may sariling negosyo pero hindi siya corporation. Siya ay may-ari at operator ng negosyo. Halimbawa, sari-sari store owner or yung mga online seller na may sariling brand. Ang Train Law ay malaking tulong sa kanila dahil sila mismo ang nagbabayad ng tax at madalas maliit lang puhunan at kita nila. Dahil sa tax exemption at 8% optional rate, mas simple na ang kanilang tax compliance. So, sa makatuwid, ang Train Law ay isang reforma na nagpapagaan sa buwis ng karaniwang Pilipino, ngunit nagpapataw ng mas mataas sa may kakayahan, habang sinisigurado na patuloy ang pondo ng gobyerno para sa mga mahalagang proyekto. Sa kabilang banda, habang binago ng Train Law ang buwis para sa mga individual tulad ng empleyado, self-employed at sole proprietors, hindi nito binago agad ang buwis para sa mga korporasyon or company. Ang corporate income tax ay buwis na binabayaran ng mga korporasyon sa kita nila. Dito, ito ay nanatiling nakabase pa rin sa ilalim ng National Internal Revenue Code or NIRC of 1997 na ang karaniwang buwis ng domestic corporation ay 30% ng net taxable income. Ano muna yung NIRC of 1997? Ito ang batas sa pagbubuwis ng Pilipinas. Sakop nito ang lahat ng uri ng buwis, kabilang na ang buwis ng individual at korporasyon. Nakasaad dito kung sino ang dapat magbayad ng buwis, magkano ang dapat bayaran, at paano ito kinokolekta ng gobyerno. So halimbawa, Kung ang isang korporasyon ay kumikita ng 1 million, net income yon ha. Ang babayaran nilang buwis ay 300,000 kasi 1M times 30% is 300K. Bakit hindi agad binago ng Train Law ang corporate tax? Siyempre dahil ang train law ay nakatuon lamang muna sa mga individual na nagbabayad ng buwis. Hiwalay pa noon ang panukalang batas para sa corporate reform, kaya hindi pa ito nagpapatupad noong pinasok ang train law noong 2018. Kaya habang wala pang bagong batas, ang dating rate na 30% ay nananatili pa ring umiiral. Pero note, sa mga susunod na taon, dumating ang panukalang batas na tinatawag na CREATE Law na ididiscuss din mamaya ng isa sa aking mga kagrupo. Ito naman ay nagbabase sa corporate income tax, pero ito ay iba na sa train law at hindi pa saklaw ng diskusyon ng train law. Sa makatuwid, ang Chapter 9 ay tungkol sa pangkalahatang prinsipyo ng taxation at paano ipinapataw ang buwis sa kita o income tax. Ang focus nito ay sa dalawang pangunahing taxpayer. Una dito is yung resident citizen individuals o yung mga taong naninirahan at kumikita dito sa Pilipinas, kasama dito ang mga empleyado, self-employed, at sole proprietors. Pangalawa is yung domestic corporation o yung mga kumpanyang nakarehistro at nagnenegosyo sa Pilipinas. Sila ang binubuwisan base sa kita ng kanilang negosyo. Sa kabanatang ito, tatalakayin kung ano ang taxation power, lifeblood theory, purpose of taxation, taxes that are imposed by the tax code, gross income, at ano-ano ang iba't ibang tax rate para sa individuals at corporation at marami pang iba. Layunin ng kabanata na ito na magbigay ng klaro, basic na kaalaman tungkol sa income taxation para sa ating mga estudyante na future professionals, entrepreneurs at mga taxpayers, syempre para handa tayong lahat sa real-life application ng buwis.
Mabuhay! I'm Chanel Lagdon and I'll be discussing about taxation power. Alam mo yung buwis na binabayaran natin, gaya ng sweldo, pagkain o kahit sa gasolina? Yun ay dahil sa tinatawag na taxation power ng gobyerno. Ibig sabihin, may karapatan ang gobyerno sa tulong ng mga gumagawa ng batas o mga mambabatas na mangolekta ng buwis sa mga tao at sa mga ari-arian. Ginagamit to para makalikom ng pondo na magagamit sa mga serbisyo para sa lahat, tulad ng libreng edukasyon, kalsada, ospital at iba pa. Halimbawa nito, kapag bumili ka ng alak o sigarilyo, may kasamang excise tax yan. Presyo, yung buwis na yon ay ginagamit ng gobyerno para pondohan ang mga programang pangkalusugan o pampublikong serbisyo.
Once again, I'm Shane Bobadilla. So now, let's discuss the taxes or the lifeblood of the government or the lifeblood theory. Sabi dito, ang buwis ay tulad ng dugo sa katawan. Ito ang nagpapadaloy ng buhay sa gobyerno. Kapag walang buwis, walang pondo para sa mga pangunahing pangangailangan ng gobyerno tulad ng sweldo ng mga guro, pulis at kawani, pati maintenance ng mga opisina o pampagawa ng mga infrastruktura. Halimbawa, kung walang koleksyon ng buwis, maaaring matigil ang operasyon ng mga pampublikong paaralan o hindi maipagawa ang mga nasirang kalsada. Ibig sabihin, mamamatay ang serbisyo ng gobyerno sa tao. Sabi rin dito, ang kapangyarihang magpataw ng buwis ay bahagi ng soberanya ng Estado o ang karapatan nitong mamuno at gumawa ng batas para sa bansa. May kasunduan kasi o social contract ang mamamayan at gobyerno. Ang tao ay nagbibigay ng buwis at kapalit nito ang gobyerno ay naglilingkod at nagsusulong ng mga programa para sa kabutihang panlahat. Halimbawa, kapag ang isang lokal na pamahalaan ay nagpataw ng environmental fee para sa turismo, ito ay ginagamit upang protektahan ang kalikasan. Kumbaga, sa buwis natin, win-win situation dahil kapag nagbigay ka, nagbe-benefit hindi lang ikaw, kundi pati na rin yung iba. Sabi rin dito, hindi lang dahil may kapangyarihan ng gobyerno kaya ito naniningil ng buwis. Kailangan talaga ito para magampanan ang mga layunin nito para sa kapakanan ng publiko. Ang buwis ang pangunahing pinagmumulan ng pondo para sa mga social programs. Halimbawa, yung mga ayuda sa panahon ng kalamidad, tulad ng mga relief goods at mga financial assistance. Ito ay galing sa pondo ng gobyerno na nagbumula sa buwis. Kung walang buwis, hindi kayang tumugon ng gobyerno sa mga ganitong pangangailangan. Sa kabuuan, ipinapakita ng lifeblood theory na ang pagbubuwis ay hindi lamang isang obligasyon ng mamamayan, kundi isang mahalagang instrumento para sa pagpapatuloy at pagganap ng gobyerno sa kanyang tungkulin. Mula sa soberanong kapangyarihan hanggang sa aktwal na pangangailangan maglingkod sa publiko, ang buwis ang nagsisiguro na ang bawat Pilipino ay may akses sa edukasyon, kalusugan, seguridad at iba pang serbisyong pampubliko. Kaya't sa bawat buwis na ating binabayaran, bahagi tayo ng mas malawak na layuning paunlarin at pangalagaan ang ating lipunan.
Good day everyone, my name is Rachel Luna. Now we will talk about purpose of taxation. First one is raise revenue or main source of government funds. Taxation is used to raise revenue. Ito yung pangunahing paraan ng gobyerno para makalikom ng pondo, which is ginagamit for funding a public service like education, healthcare, infrastructure, and security. Second is regulatory purpose or control harmful goods. Ibig sabihin, ginagamit ito para kontrolin ang paggamit na o pagbili ng mga produkto na harmful, gaya ng alak at sigarilyo, by making them more expensive through excess taxes. Lastly is compensatory purpose or offset public services for the people. Taxes help compensate for the cost of delivering services and benefits to the public, especially in areas where government assistance is needed. So, taxation is not just about collecting money. It's also about discipline, support, and service to the people. Now, let's jump on to taxes that are imposed by the tax code. First, we have income tax, which is paid by individuals and businesses based on their earnings. Ito ang buwis na binabayaran base sa kita ng mga tao at businesses. Second, estate and donors tax are applied when transferring wealth, either through inheritance or donation. From the word estate tax, ito ay buwis na binabayaran kapag may namatay at may iniwang ari-arian, properties or assets na ipapamana sa tagapagmana. For example, kapag may yumao at naiwan niyang bahay ay ipapamana sa anak, kailangan muna bayaran ang estate tax bago lumipat or bago mailipat ang titulo. While donor tax, ito naman ang buwis na binabayaran kapag nagbibigay ng regalo o donasyon ng malaking halaga habang buhay pa ang nagbibigay. Halimbawa, kung ang isang tao ay nagbigay ng lupa sa kaibigan niya, kailangan niya magbayad ng donor's tax. Third, value-added tax or VAT is a tax added to the price of goods and services at every stage of production. Karaniwan itong 12% sa Pilipinas. Binabayaran ito ng consumer pero ang businesses ang nagre-remit sa BIR. Makikita rin ito sa receipt na iyong binabayaran. Then we have other percentage tax, which apply to certain businesses that are not VAT registered. Ito naman ang businesses tax na ini-impose sa mga negosyo na hindi sakop ng VAT. Karaniwan itong 3% ng gross of sales or receipt. Applicable ito sa mga small businesses o yung may kita na hindi higit sa VAT. For example, is currently or 3 million pesos per year. Next is excise tax. Is imposed on specific goods like fuel, alcohol, and tobacco. Kapag bumili ka ng sigarilyo, mas mataas ang presyo dahil may excise tax na kasama, bukod pa sa VAT. Next is documentary stamp tax or DST. Charge on legal documents like contracts, loans, and certificates. For example, kung uutang ka sa bangko, may kontrata na pipirmahan. Sa kontratang yan, kailangan bayaran ang documentary stamp, tax, or bilang bahagi ng proseso. And finally, there are other taxes collected by the Bureau of Internal Revenue for specific purposes. These taxes plays an important role in ensuring that the government can function effectively and serve the people.
Good day. I am Alexis R. Katapang, and I'm here to discuss the general principles of income taxation in the Philippines. As you can see, there are 6 principles of income taxation in the Philippines. Number 1. A citizen of the Philippines residing therein is taxable on all income derived from sources within and without the Philippines. Meaning, ang lahat ng citizen ng Pilipinas na nakatira sa Pilipinas ay taxable sa lahat ng income kahit saan galing, dito man sa Pilipinas o galing sa ibang bansa. Like for example, may trabaho ka dito sa Gen 3 at may online business or may online work ka na based sa US. Yung dalawang work mo na yun ay parehong taxable. Number 2, a non-resident citizen is taxable only on income derived from sources within the Philippines. Dito naman ay yung mga non-resident citizen ng Pilipinas, Pilipino pero nakatira sa ibang bansa. Taxable lang sa income na galing sa Pilipinas yung mga non-resident citizen. Like for example, sa nakatira ka naman sa ibang bansa at may paupahan ka dito sa Pilipinas, kaya dito sa Gen 3. Yung income na nakukuha mo dito sa Gen 3, yun lang ang taxable. For number 3, an individual citizen of the Philippines who is working and deriving income from abroad as an overseas contract worker is taxable only on income derived from sources within the Philippines, provided that a seaman who is a citizen of the Philippines and who receives compensations for services rendered abroad as a member of the complement vessel engaged exclusively in international trade shall be treated as an overseas contract worker. Dito naman ay yung mga OFW o seaman na Pilipino, taxable lang sa income na galing sa Pilipinas. Basta qualified ka as OFW or seaman, hindi taxable ang sweldo mo na galing sa abroad. Number 4. An alien individual, whether a resident or not of the Philippines, is taxable only on income derived from sources within the Philippines. Yung alien na nire-refer dito is not literally an alien, but it refers to a foreigner. Dito naman is yung mga foreigner na residente man o hindi ng Pilipinas ay taxable lang sa income na galing sa Pilipinas. Like for example, an American citizen. Yung American citizen na yan is may trabaho dito sa Pilipinas. Taxable lang sa kita na galing sa Pilipinas ang kukunin galing sa American citizen na yan, pero hindi sa kita ng US. Number 5. A domestic corporation is taxable on all income derived from sources within and without the Philippines. Dito naman is yung mga domestic corporation na Philippine-based company. Taxable sa lahat ng kita, dito man sa Pilipinas or sa abroad. Kahit saang bansa kumita ang company na to, basta Philippine-based, taxable dito sa Pilipinas. Number 6. A foreign corporation, whether engaged or not in trade, business in the Philippines, is taxable only on income derived from sources within the Philippines. Dito naman is yung mga foreign corporation na hindi Philippine-based, taxable lang sa income na galing sa Pilipinas. Like for example, may American company na may branch dito sa Gen 3. Taxable lang sa kita nila is yung dito sa Gen 3. So here is the summary application for the income taxpayers and their sources of income within the Philippines or outside the Philippines. whether they're taxable and not taxable. For the residents, citizens of the Philippines, lahat ng income na nanggagaling sa Pilipinas at galing sa ibang bansa ay parehong taxable. And for the non-resident citizens of the Philippines, is yung kita nila na within the Philippines ay taxable at yung kinikita nila outside the Philippines is not taxable. Next is alien individual, whether resident or not of the Philippines. Ang kinikita nila dito sa Pilipinas, yun ang taxable at yung kinikita nila sa ibang bansa ay hindi na taxable. Next, domestic corporation. For the domestic corporation, lahat ng kinikita ng corporation na ito na within the Philippines, yun ang taxable. At ganoon din sa kinikita nila outside the Philippines ay taxable. For foreign corporation, whether engaged or not in trade or business in the Philippines, ay yung kinikita nila na within the Philippines ay taxable at yung kinikita nila outside the Philippines ay not taxable. And that's it for the summary application of income taxpayers.
Good day, everyone. My name is Juliana Rose Alano and I will discuss taxable income. Taxable income. Ang taxable income ay kita na kailangan bayaran ng buwis, pero ayon sa batas ng buwis or tax code, may mga uri o grupo o samahan na hindi tinuturing na corporation. Kaya ibang pagtrato sa kanila pagdating sa mga buwis. Halimbawa na lang neto ang mga joint ventures, consortiums, at partnership. Lalo na kung para ito sa mga construction project o energy operations. Hindi sila kinakailangan magbayad ng buwis tulad ng isang corporation. Sa kabilang banda, may tinatawag na general professional partnership gaya ng samahan ng mga abogado o accountant. Ang kita ng mga miyembro nito ay hindi galing sa negosyo, kundi sa profesyon mismo, kagaya ng legal service o accountant work. Kaya, ang partnership mismo ay hindi nagbabayad ng buwis o bilang entity. Ang bawat miyembro ng isang nagbabayad ng buwis para sa kanyang bahagi ng kita.
Mabuhay! I am John Micah Esabas and I will explain to you what gross income is. Well, gross income is the total amount of money a person earns from all sources before any deductions like taxes, loan payments, or expenses are taken out. It includes income from job, small business, freelance work, bank interest, and even prices or gifts of value. So, meaning to say, in a shorter version of it means all income derived from whatever source, including but not limited to the following items, is number 1 is compensation for services in whatever from paid, including but not limited to fees, salaries, wages, commissions, and similar items. And as a student, understanding gross income is important because it helps you see your full earning potential, and is often used when applying for scholarships, financial aid, or part-time jobs. It also helps you prepare for adult responsibilities like paying taxes or budgeting your finances. Knowing what gross income means is the first step toward managing your money wisely and planning for your future. Anyway, gross income means all income derived from whatever source, including but not limited to the following items. Number 1, compensation for services in whatever form paid, including but not limited to fees, salaries, wages, commissions, and similar items. This includes all forms of income you earn in exchange for doing work or rendering services, whether you are an employer or self-employed. Sample, commissions. A real estate agent earning 5% of the sale price of a house. Another fees. A lawyer charging a client 1,000 for legal consultation. Number 2, gross income derived from the conduct of trade or business or the exercise of profession. This is the total income before expenses from operating a business and practicing a profession. Example, a small bakery generating 300,000 per year in sales. Another example, a dentist earning 150,000 per year from patients. This income is reported before subtracting costs like rent, supplies, and salaries. Number 3, gains derived from dealings in property. These are profits made from selling capital assets like land, buildings, stocks, or vehicles. Example, you buy a condo for 200,000 pesos and sell it for 300,000 and you will gain 100,000 in a condo you bought. These are often subject to capital gains tax, which may be at a lower rate than regular income tax depending on the country and holding period. Number 4, interest. This is income from lending money or putting money into interest-bearing accounts or instruments. Example, holding a government bond that pay 5% annual interest. Another example is earning interest from a personal loan you gave to someone, usually taxed as ordinary income. Number 5, rents. This is income from letting someone use your property, usually real estate or equipment. For example, renting out an apartment for 2,000 per month. Rental income is taxable. However, you can usually deduct related expenses, example, property tax, repairs, and depreciation. Number 6, royalties. Income received for the use of your intellectual property. For example, an inventor receives a royalty for licensing a patented product. Another example, a musician earns a percentage each time their song is streamed or played. Royalties are taxed and may be considered passive income unless you're actively managing the rights. Number 7, dividends. A share of a corporation's profits paid to shareholders. For example, mutual funds distributing profits as dividends to investors, taxed either at regular rates or at preferential lower rates depending on the tax jurisdiction and whether they are qualified dividends. Number 8, annuities. A financial product usually from insurance companies that pay regular amounts to you often after retirement, either for life or a fixed number of years. For example, is a retiree receives payments from a pension annuity contract. Part of the annuity payment may be taxable, especially the earnings portion. Number 9, prizes and winnings. Money or property won through luck, games, or competition. For example, casino winnings from slot machines or poker. Almost always fully taxable as income and must be reported even if you don't receive a tax document. Number 10, pensions. Retirement income from a previous job or retirement plan. It's a fixed payment usually made monthly. Fully or partially taxable depending on whatever contributions were made pre-tax or after tax. And lastly, partners' distributive share from the net income. This is a partner share of the total income earned by a partnership business owned by 2 or more people. For example, in a restaurant partnerships where you own 25% and the business earns 100,000, you get 25,000 pesos. This income is taxable to each partner, even if the partnership doesn't distribute the cash. for deduction from gross income, these are the expenses that are to be deducted in the gross income. Note, however, that not all expenses can be deducted in the gross income. Deduction is only allowed when it's specifically allowed or provided by law. It is not presumed. In the computation of taxable income, gross income serves as the starting point from which certain allowable deductions may. These deductible expenses are a specific cost that the law permits to be subtracted from gross income in order to arrive at the next taxable amount. It is important to note, however, that not all expenses are deductible. The ability to deduct an expense from gross income is not presumed and cannot be claimed at the taxpayer's discretion. Deductions are only permitted when expressly authorized by law or regulation. Therefore, any claim for deduction must be supported by a clear legal provision that allows it. This principle reflects the rule that tax exemptions or privileges, including deductions, must be strictly construed. Unless the expense is specifically listed or defined as the deductible under applicable tax laws, it cannot be deducted from gross income. For examples of commonly authorized deduction as provided by law may include ordinary and necessary business expenses, interest on certain qualified loans, contributions to accredited charitable institutions, qualified educational or medical expenses, and depreciation of business assets. While deductions serve to reduce taxpayers' liability, they are not based on subjective reasoning or necessity alone. Rather, they are legal allowances granted under specific conditions, and taxpayers must refer to the relevant tax laws to determine which expenses are validly deductible. 1. All ordinary and necessary expenses paid or incurred during the taxable year in connection with the trade, business, or profession. These refer to expenditures that are both commonly ordinary and appropriate necessary in the conduct of a trade, business, or profession. To be deductible, the expenses must be directly related to the operation of the business and must have been paid or incurred during the taxable year. Examples include salaries, rent, utilities, professional fees, and office supplies. Only those expenses which are reasonable in amount and customarily incurred in the industry or profession may be considered deductible. Number 2. Interest paid or incurred within a taxable year on indebtedness in connection in the taxpayer's profession, trade, or business. Interest payments made within the taxable year on borrowed funds used for business, trade, or professional activities are deductible, provided they are legally due and the debt is incurred for a legitimate business purpose. The deduction applies only if the indebtedness is directly connected to the taxpayer's income generating activities. For key point, personal or non-business related interest expenses are not deductible. Number 3. Taxes paid or incurred within the taxable year in connection with the taxpayer's profession, trade, or business income tax. Taxes that are legally imposed and paid in connection with the taxpayer's business, profession, or trade may be deducted from gross income. These include business permits, licenses, real property tax, and value-added tax if not creditable. However, income tax itself is not deductible. Only taxes directly attributable to business operations, excluding income tax, qualify for deduction. Number 4. Losses actual sustained during the taxable year if incurred in trade, profession, or business. Losses that are actually sustained during the taxable year and that are directly related to the conduct of business or profession may be deducted from gross income. These include losses from fire, theft, or natural disasters provided they are not compensated by insurance or other means. The laws must be real and properly documented. The laws must not be speculative and must arise from a bona fide business transactions. Number 5. Donations to the government of the Philippines or to any of its agent political subdivision if there is any. Contributions or donations made to the government of the Philippines, its agencies or political subdivisions are deductible, provided they are made exclusively for public purposes such as education, health, or infrastructure. These donations must be documented and comply with the requirements set forth under the applicable tax regulations. And lastly, contributions or gifts actually paid or made within the taxable year. Contributions or gifts actually paid or made within the taxable year to qualified entities, such as accredited non-profit organizations, charitable institutions, or NGOs may be deductible, subject to certain limitations or ceiling under the tax law. These deductions require that the donation may be made without consideration and for qualified public benefit purposes. Key point, only contributions to duly accredited and legally qualified organizations are allowed as deductions. So that's all for my report. Thank you for listening.
Good day, I'm Shaira Isabel Asarsha. Now, let's proceed to the 13th month pay and other benefits generally excluded in the gross income. Ang 13th month pay ay isang mandatory benefits na ibinibigay ng employers sa kanilang employee. Ito ay karagdagang bayad sa sweldo na katumbas ng 1 to 12 ng kabuuang basic salary na kinita ng isang empleyado sa loob ng isang calendar year. Lahat ng rank and file na empleyado sa pribadong sektor ay karapat-dapat makatanggap ng 13th month pay basta't nakapagtrabaho sila nang hindi bababa sa isang buwan sa loob ng taon. Ayon sa Train Law Republic Act No. 10963, ang 13th month pay and other benefits ay tax-exempt up to a certain amount. Ngayon, ang maximum na exemption ay 90,000. Meaning, kung ang 13th month pay and other benefits ay lumagpas sa 90,000, yung sobra ay magiging taxable at kasama na sa gross income. Ang Train Law or Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion RA 10963 ay ang unang bahagi ng Comprehensive Tax Reform Program ng government. Ang main purpose nito ay pababain ng income tax ng karamihan ng mga manggagawa, lalo na yung mga sumasahod ng mas mababa. Importanteng tandaan na kapag lumagpas sa 90,000 ang exclusion rate, ang sobra ay kailangang isama sa computation ng gross income ng employee para sa taxation.
Tax rates for individuals, sole proprietors, and professionals. Number 1. If the annual gross sales or income is 3 million below. Kung ang isang tao, sole proprietor or professional ay may 3 million na kinikita, karapatan nilang pumili sa pamamagitan ng pwede silang pumili sa dalawang paraan ng pagbubuwis. Ito yung una. Number 1, ginagamit ang regular tax rates ayon sa Trail Law. Dito ay ang buwis ay nakabatay sa income brackets kung saan ay mas mataas ang kita, mas mataas din ang pagbabayad ng buwis. So number 2, optional 8% tax rate. Pwedeng pumili ng fixed rate na 8%, pero maaaring mas mataas depende sa actual na kita at available deductions. Sa ilalim ng Train Law, pwedeng piliin ang 8% tax sa gross sale at receipts na lampas 250,000. Kapalit ng graduated tax rates, mas simple pero mas walang deduction. Criteria to quality and avail of the 8% income tax rates. Number 1, mixed income earners mula sa mga self-employment, mga ganon. Number 2, mga taxpayer na ang kita ay hindi lalampas ng 3 million. Number 3, hindi sakop ang ibang VAT or percentage tax. Number 4, dapat ideklara ng intensyon na mas pumili ng 8% tax rate. Number 2, if the annual gross sales or income is above 3 million. Kung ang kita ng isang tao ay lampas ng 3 million, wala silang choice sa 8% tax. Ang kailangan nilang sundin ay graduated income tax rates.
Good day, everyone! My name is Juliana Rose Alano and I will discuss taxable income. Income tax on corporation. Ang income tax on corporation ay tumutukoy sa buwis na kailangan bayaran ng isang kumpanya or corporation base sa kanilang kinita sa loob ng isang taon. Ang taxable income ay isang corporation ay kinukwenta gamit ang total na kita o revenue o sales, minus o bawas sa mga allowed deductions tulad ng mga gastos sa operations, sweldo o renta, at marami pang iba. Taxable income ang basihan ng buwis. Pagkatapos makuha ang taxable income, doon na i-apply ang income tax rate na itinakdatang batas para malaman kung magkano ang kailangan bayaran sa kumpanya sa gobyerno. Halimbawa, ang Tasty Travelers Corporation ay isang kumpanya sa isang Cavite na gumagawa ng travel vlogs at nagbebenta sa travel package online. Sa isang taon, ang total revenue nila ay 5 million. Ang kanilang allowed deduction gastos sa empleyado, equipment, marketing at iba pa ay umaabot ng 3 million. So, ang 5 million total revenue. Ang 3 million ay deduction. Ang 2 million is taxable income. Kung ang corporation income tax rate ay 25%, ang babayarang buwis ng Tasty Traveler Corporation ay 2 million times 25% equals 500,000. Ibig sabihin, kailangan nilang magbayad ng 500,000 na income tax para sa taon na yun.
Hi, my name is Brianna G. Garcia and I will be discussing the classification of corporation under the tax code. The tax code of the Philippines classifies corporations based on where they are created and where they earn their income. First, we have the domestic corporations, a corporation that is created or registered in the Philippines. It is taxed on all income, whether earned inside the country or outside the country. Next, we have the foreign corporation, a corporation that is organized under the law of another country. It can be either a resident foreign corporation, RFC, a foreign corporation that is doing business in the Philippines. It is taxed only on income earned within the Philippines. Next, we have the non-resident foreign corporation or NRFC, a foreign corporation that is not doing business in the Philippines. Even though it doesn't operate in the country, it is still taxed on income earned from sources within the Philippines like interest, dividends, rent, royalties, salaries, premium except insurance, annuities, other occasional or regular earnings, or capital gains. Next, let's talk about the taxes that may be imposed on a corporation. First, we have the normal income tax. This is a regular tax a corporation pays based on net income, which means net income equals to total income minus expense. The tax rates are 25% for most corporations, 20% if the corporation is small business and the net income is less than 5 million and the total asset is less than 100 million. For example, if a company earns 10 million pesos and has 6 million pesos in expenses, net income is equals to 4 million pesos. And the tax is 4 million times 25% is equals to 1 million pesos. Next, we have the minimum corporation income tax or MCIT. Even if a corporation earns little or no profit, it still has to pay tax starting in its 4th year of operation. The MCIT is 2% of gross income before deducting expenses. For example, gross income is equals to 5 million. The MCIT is equals to 5 million pesos times 2%. It is equals to 100,000 pesos. Third, we have the gross income tax. Some corporations that are given special tax incentives, like those registered with PEZA, don't pay based on net income. Instead, they are pay a tax on their gross income or the income without subtracting expenses. The rate is usually 5% depending on the incentive law. For example, the gross income is 20 million peso and the tax is equals to 20 million pesos times 5% equals to 1 million. 4, we have the capital gains tax or CGT. This tax is paid when a corporation sells assets like shares of stock or real property or land, buildings. The selling shares not traded on stock market, the tax is 15% of the capital gain. When you are selling the real property, tax is 6% of either selling price or zonal or market value, whichever is higher. For example, if you are selling a building for 10 million pesos, the market value is 9 million pesos. Tax is equals to 10 million times 6%. It is equals to 600,000 peso. And number 5, the final tax of passive income. This tax is applied to income not related to the main business, such as the bank interest, royalties, dividends, prices over. These are the types of passive income. The rate of bank interest is 20%. The royalties is 20%. The dividends is 10%. The prices over is 20%. For example, bank interest of 200,000 pesos to 20% is equals to 40,000 pesos. And the royalties of 500,000 pesos to 20% is equals to 100%. Dividends of 1 million pesos to 10% is equals to 100,000 pesos.
Now let's move on to normal income tax on domestic corporation. Ang normal income tax on domestic corporation ay ang buwis na binabayaran ng mga kumpanya na nakarehistro at itinatag ng batas ng Pilipinas. Ang domestic corporation ay binubawisan sa lahat ng kanyang net income sa loob man o mula sa labas ng Pilipinas. For example, kung ang isang kumpanyang Pilipino ay kumita mula sa operasyon niya mula sa Metro Manila at meron din siyang kinita mula sa isang project niya sa Vietnam, parehong kasama yon sa co-computing taxable income. Ang CREATE or Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act, Republic Act 11534 na pinirmahan ni dating Pangulong Duterte noong March 26, 2021 ay naglalayong tulungan ang mga negosyo na makabangon mula sa epekto ng pandemya. Ito rin ay ang pangalawang bahagi ng Comprehensive Tax Reform Program ng Pilipinas. Ang pinakamalaking pagbabago na dinala ng CREATE Act Law para sa normal income tax ng domestic corporation ay ang pagbaba ng corporate income tax rate. Dati, 30% ang standard na buwis sa kita ng domestic corporations. Ngayon, dahil sa CREATE Act Law, bumaba ito sa 25% para sa karamihan. At mas lalo pang bumaba sa 20% para sa mga qualified na maliliit at katamtamang negosyo. Ito ay ginawa para mas mapagaan ang pasanin ng mga negosyo at hikayatin silang mag-invest at mag-expand.
Mabuhay! I'm Chanel Agdon and I'll be discussing about tax rate for different classes of corporation under CREATE or CREATE. Number 1 is domestic corporation. Ito yung mga kumpanyang rehistrado sa Pilipinas. Tax sila sa lahat ng income, kahit galing sa Pilipinas o sa ibang bansa. Ang tax rate nila ay 25%. Pero kung total assets nila ay 100 million pababa at ang net taxable income naman ay 5 million pababa, edi ang tax rate nila ay bababa sa 20%. Ay ang Pinoy Tech Corporation ay isang local IT company sa Makati. May assets silang 80 million at annual income na 4.5 million. Dahil pasok sila sa requirements, 20% lang ang tax rate nila. Pangalawa ay ang Resident Foreign Corporation. Ito ay foreign companies na may permanenteng negosyo dito sa Pilipinas. Tax lang sila sa income na galing sa Pilipinas. Tax rate nila ay 25% or 20% din kung pasok sa 100 million assets and 5 million income rule. Example nito ay si Japan Motors Corporation ay isang Japanese company na may opisina at showroom sa Cebu. Kumita sila ng 3 million sa Pilipinas. Since local income lang ang tax base at pasok sa asset or income rule, 20% lang ang tax nila. Last ay non-resident foreign corporation. Ito ay mga foreign companies na walang office o branch dito sa Pilipinas pero kumikita pa rin mula sa Pilipinas. Halimbawa, online services, royalties, and so on. Ang tax rate ay laging 25% on income from the Philippines. Example nito ay ang US Software Inc. ay walang office sa Pilipinas pero may Filipino clients na nagbabayad sa kanila monthly for software. 25% ang tax sa income nila galing sa Pilipinas kahit wala silang opisina dito. That's all to my part. Thank you.